Hello. Test, test, test. How's the volume? Audible levels sound okay? Hello. You can hear me? Okay, well, really was what I was asking. I was asking if you could hear me okay. You can hear me well. Yeah, I have I changed my microphone setup so it's like right up in my mouth hole, so you guys can hear me like breathe. So that's cool. Also, I'm going to apologize in advance again for my dog. I timed the stream perfectly so that there will be groceries being delivered at some point between the next hour and 2 hours. So if we run over the 1 o'clock time, you might hear my dog freaking out at an Amazon grocery delivery guy. So anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. First, as we always do, let's start on the macro view, and then we'll zoom inward. So let me get rid of this a little bit. Get rid of that, and that should be okay. So, okay, first and foremost, let's talk about this death cross right here. Let's clear this off. So here's a death cross, right? On the daily. Where's my, here we go. Sorry, I wasn't quite prepared yet. Okay, here we go. Okay, so cool. So we see a death cross right here, and these are daily candles, keep in mind. We see a death cross right here, and this is called a death cross. This is the 200 EMA, 200. This is the 50 EMA, and the death cross is what happens when the slow moving average, in our case this is the 50, crosses from the top to the bottom of the wait, did I say slow moving average? Sorry, the fast moving average crosses down through the slow moving average. Typically it's 50 and 100, but you know, there's no hard rule that says like a death cross is by definition 50 and 200, but that's the most common I've found. Anyway, this means here, that doesn't mean that, again, that doesn't mean that the price is going to tank. I think the last time we did this stream, we were down here. I talked about how, you know, just because it was a death cross doesn't mean we're going to break to new lows, and I felt like it was going to bounce. And we see here that it bounced up and it's getting a retest of the 50 EMA on the daily. And so far it's rejected it, which is pretty bearish. It couldn't hold above it. It got a really nice tweezer top here. And it's not looking very good. Overall volume is consolidating throughout the length of this, you know, this move to new lows here. Volume is going down for the most part. Total volume is going down for the most part. So basically, since we made the new low onward, it's been making higher or lower highs and the volume. You know, we see it here, except for this little boner here, which we'll talk about. So I'm going to drop to some lower time frames real fast. So let's look at the. Actually, before I go there, I want to talk about the Bollinger Bands. So on the daily, so I got rid of the moving averages, but on the daily, last time we talked, I talked about the squeeze that was happening on the daily Bollinger Bands here, which, you know, here's a squeeze, here's a squeeze, here's a squeeze, here's a squeeze, and now here's our 1, 2, 3, 4, a fifth squeeze here on the daily Bollinger Bands. And typically a squeeze, this is what happens when the upper and lower Bollinger Bands converge, and that represents consolidation. But then we see an expansion of the Bollinger Bands, which represents an end of consolidation and the beginning of a new trend. Whether that's a continuation of the downtrend or a reversal remains to be seen. But you can see right here, it's found resistance on the top of the Bollinger Bands, just like it did here, 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 and here. right? So it stands to reason that our local top is in here. The volume just doesn't look like it wants to continue upward, and I'll expand more upon that idea in a second. But yeah, it's looking like we reached a local top, and what I'm anticipating is a continuation of the downtrend. I was originally expecting a test of this price range in here, but I don't think it's going to make it there, and I'll explain why here in a second. So let's go to the 240-minute view. Actually, let's do 6 hour, and I'll drop the Bollinger Bands. So I'll get rid of you, and I'll put my trends back up. So it's a little messy at the moment, but keep an eye on this pink line here. Okay, this pink line right here, because that's what we're going to talk about. Oh, I don't want to do that. Okay, so pink line right here. This is our, it's called a macro, this is called a supply line. Supply. A supply trend like this, from a Wyckoff perspective, it represents the limits of the demand in the market, and it's the point where supply overwhelmingly dominates the demand and the market can't climb any higher. So we see it here, we see it here, we see it here, and now we're almost there here. So again, it stands to reason that our local top will reach this supply line right here. If we look back throughout the history of this downtrend, we see that there are several fake outs before the actual downtrend occurs. So on a macro perspective, we see this guy right here, right? We see a test, and then the ultimate breakdown here. Again, a failed test, an actual test, and then the breakdown. And now we see a failed test, and I suspect we're going to come up and test it here before a rejection and an ultimate continuation of the downtrend. So what does that mean for the macro market? I'm of the opinion that that Bitcoin is going to make a new low from this. I think that I'm leaning away from this potential accumulation trading range and leaning more toward a redistribution. So it would be something like this. So we see the actual distribution here, we see redistribution here, we see redistribution here, a minor accumulation, a distribution here, and ultimately I think we're going to come down, make a sharp drop to the bottom of this trading range here, make a little bounce, and then drop down and make a new low. You know, somewhere down here. I've had this labeled here for a long time, so I firmly believe that there's like really good support here. So I don't think it would go much lower than that for a bounce and a rally. But you know, capitulation's a hell of a drug, and that could really shove the market to new lows. But I really want to go back and talk about this supply line, because it's really important when you're doing market cycle analysis from the Wyckoff perspective. Supply lines represent, so if we're thinking about like a little teeter-totter thing, right, where we have demand and supply. When demand equals supply, the price is flat. When demand is greater than supply, price goes up. And when supply is greater than demand, the price goes down. So these pivot points are crucial because these represent the line in the sand from the composite operator that say, you know, we're no longer going to sponsor any more upward moves. And this is the point in which the supply overwhelmingly dominates the demand, and the price really gets rejected. Because you can see here, every time it touches it, it gets a really stiff rejection continuously. So I'm going to be looking to short right in here. Yeah, I'm going to be building my short today. I'm going to start phasing into my short today, most likely, if it continues upward. But there are some There are some things to note about the volume. And I want to talk about some of these moves that have really been chopping people to shreds. If you're my trading group, then you know that I really harp on trying to not trade inside of trading ranges because of this, all of this stuff in here. You see how just choppy it is. It's just like 100% retracement, 100% retracement, a 100% retracement. So basically, if you guys are wondering what happened here, right? This was a short squeeze, duh, right? But it wasn't a short squeeze that caused shorts to close in a conventional sense. So I'm gonna justify this argument here in a second. But if you look here, if you shorted anywhere inside of this trading range, right? Anywhere inside of here, you got stopped out by this giant candle. In fact, if you chase the breakout here and you didn't close your short, right? You got stopped out somewhere along the way, or broke even, or maybe you're holding on to your short, and you know. But we see here that this breakout that broke down into this trading range saw 100% retracement. So from here to here to here was a 100% retracement of the initial move. So moral of the story is play your stop losses responsibly. Don't over position size yourself, but more importantly, keep an eye out for the 100% retracements, because that's the whole point of these trading ranges. Is it's supposed to stop people out and churn up liquidity for the composite operator to sell his supply. Okay, earlier on in the week, I talked about the possibility of this being a reaccumulation trading range. I'm no longer of that opinion. This looks like a distribution. If we look at just this part right here, right? Before, I think one of my last tweets that I sent out, it was just this part of the trading range right here. I said this has all the hallmarks of accumulation, and it broke out. But if you recall from my previous streams, I think it was like maybe 3 streams ago, I said a breakout above the trading range is bullish, but a return to the trading range is inherently bearish, right? Because it rejects the demand, right? So this is actually an upthrust in a distribution trading range. And right now we're seeing a last point of supply. So I'm gonna draw some comparisons between this trading range and the previous trading ranges we've had. So if we look back at the 6-hour chart, the point we are right now is right here. We are right here. Okay, so here was our upthrust right here, and right now we're right in here, and we're about to make this little last point of supply here, which represents like the last ping off of the supply line before it gets stiffly rejected. That is where I think we are. I think that if you're bullish right now, that's a mistake. But I mean, I'm open to be proven wrong. Like I would love to just buy Bitcoin and sit on it. That would obviously be the ideal situation, but you know, but we got to look at the cards that we're given and approach it with an open mind. Anyway, I just rambled on for a while. Let's get some questions going, and I'll try to answer them as best as possible. All right, so the question is, if we miss the squeeze up/bottom, would you get in on the retrace or just stay away? If we miss the squeezed up/bottom, so I don't think the squeeze has actually yielded the move yet. I think we're about to begin the move of the squeeze. I'm assuming you're talking about the 1 day. So the squeeze is usually indicative of a sustained move. I think that we're just beginning the move, and the move is down. I think the squeeze is going to be something like this, something like this, something like this, and something like this, where the move comes up, tests, and then it goes stiffly rejected. Comes up, stiff rejection. comes up, stiff rejection. I think the move is to short. That's my personal opinion, but that's not financial advice. So do what you want. What do you think of the 12-hour B-band double top? Let's look at it. 12-hour B-band double top. I do not see a 12-hour B-band double top, so I'm not sure what you're talking about. Can you revisit shorts and longs? Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. So I said previously that this move upward was a short squeeze, but not in a conventional sense. And I'm going to talk about that. So let's look at this in detail here. This giant move upward. Okay. I'll zoom in a little bit so we can get some clarity. Okay. So what's really interesting about this move here is that this move was not on leverage. This was raw supply that got bought up by the CO, right? Because we can see the shorts, we see the longs, but none of these closed until we started consolidating here, and then they quickly close, right? So if you look here and we draw a little line, right? Oops. We see a little of it, like this is like the little bit of the squeeze. Maybe the CO closed a few shorts, but the bulk of the shorts didn't get closed until the 100% retracement of, where is it? Until we retraced 100% of the way to here. Boom. Or here. Boom. So I'll go ahead and draw a little line for you guys. So we see here, that the shorts, first of all, they reached like some absurd level, right? All-time high levels. And then they promptly closed right in here. But you see here that they actually broke even. So as the price, approached this level here, everyone who shorted in here lost money. If you shorted at any point below here, below this level, you lost money on that short. You can see here that from here to here, they're even right on the 100% retracement, which is interesting, right? So I think that the shorts in this case were used to lure in bears on this move here, so that they could push the move upward. But what's most interesting to me, in my opinion, is the longs, right? So we see the longs closed. And if we were going to see a sustained move upward, why in the fuck would these longs close here? Right? So, long story short, the longs and shorts, long story short, that's hilarious. Long story short, the longs and shorts are being used to push the price up and down, but ultimately I'm of the opinion that the composite operator does not give a flying fuck about margin leveraged positions. They're trying to get the raw supply, the stuff that's like this. They want this actual Bitcoin, not Bitcoin on leverage. If we break the downtrend from 20K and then consolidate above, would you jump in? Yeah. I mean, I'm holding Bitcoin right now because I trade on BitMEX. So what would you be expecting, or I'm sorry, what would be expecting it to look like if you thought it was going to break out instead of drop? Not sure what that means. There are some people in the Twitter sphere like Nick Trades who thinks alt season is about to commence. Based on your past streams, I'm assuming you think it would just follow Bitcoin down. So it depends on what lens you're looking at it. If you're looking at it from the Bitcoin, purely through the Bitcoin alt pairs, then sure, yeah, alt season is looking good. But I'm looking at it from a total asset value, right? So sure, you know, alt BTC pairs look good, awesome, but Bitcoin's going down, BTC USD is going down, alts USD are going down. I see no reason to buy any alts. My personal opinion is I see no reason to buy any alts. If I have a strong argument to suggest that Bitcoin is going down, I don't know why I would be buying alts on any pair right now. Like, yeah, the alt Bitcoin pair is going up, but Bitcoin's going down, and the alt USD pair is going down. That's just like, I don't know. It doesn't seem wise to me, but everyone has their own financial goals, so take that for what it's worth. If the CO bought up that raw Bitcoin, would he be losing money if Bitcoin rejects the supply line again? Well, I'm of the opinion that he actually bought all the supply and then already distributed it. Like, this whole distribution was him getting rid of this supply here. And then when we hit the last point of supply and it gets rejected, that's when we're going to see a lot of this sell off. That's my opinion. Why do you think all these, or the majority of crypto Twitter people, are talking all the time about what? Why do you think all these, or the majority, I have no idea what you're saying. Okay. Why do you think all these, or the majority of the crypto Twitter people, are talking all the time about being bullish? Because I think most of the Twitter people are full of shit. I think most, like 99% of the people who quote unquote trade on Twitter are full of shit. They don't trade, they buy coins and they just hope to God that they break out. And ultimately they're right at some point. And then people, like, you know, love them for it for whatever reason, because they suck too. Most people suck, man. Just in general. People in general suck. Twitter's not an exception to that rule. Why is your preference for using log chart? Because it tracks percentages better. So like, so for example, my dog's about to start barking. I got a delivery from Amazon. Let's see. Hold on a second, guys. Okay, I think she's done. The Amazon guy's gone. Okay, so the question was, why do I chart on log instead of arithmetic? Because if you're wanting to look at like actual moves in a relevant sense, looking at just pure dollar value doesn't really make any sense, right? Because if we're looking at a move from like 5,000 to 10,000, right? This is a 2x move, right? But it's a $5,000 move. If you look at the move from 10,000 to 15,000, that's a $5,000 move as well, but the gain is only 50%. So if you want to account for this difference in change, you plot on log because it scales it better. So like, for example, the difference between 10,000 and 20,000, somewhere up here, right? This is a 2x move. This should be the same distance as 5,000 to 10,000, and it is. So this is the same as this, even though the dollar value is different. Seems a lot of Twitter folks are actually pretty bearish on Bitcoin. Okay. What scenario makes you bullish? The price going up. I love Donald TA. Yeah, Donald's great. If you're bullish on alts versus Bitcoin but bearish on Bitcoin USD, why would you not just short Bitcoin USD and long alt BTC? Doesn't expose you to Bitcoin drops, but lets you ride the alt season. Because I'd rather just short Bitcoin, take my Bitcoin, and then buy it when it bottoms. The Bollinger Bands on the weekly look bearish. Let's see. Yeah, so I was looking at this last night actually, that the Bollinger Bands on the weekly are starting to expand. So they had a squeeze on the weekly about here, and now they're starting to expand. So we could see a continuation of the downtrend. Oops. Oh yeah, there's I want to pull up this this historic example too, so I can show you guys something interesting. It looks very similar. I talked about this last time, but it looks very similar to, where is it? Oh, here we go. Okay. So I've been talking about this example a lot. Let's get rid of the Bollinger Bands too. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to line this up for you guys. Okay, let's talk about this. So if we look here, this is a previous parabolic blow off for FXI. These are weekly candles, but these are 12-hour candles for Bitcoin. Okay, so one thing to notice is there's this upward line, this ascending line here, something like this. Let's try to draw it. Right? It ultimately gets violated on the fourth pass. So I'm going to try to compare this as much as possible. So 1, 2, 3, 4 times the charm and it breaks through. Right? And then we see this hypodermic blow off right here. So we see this hypodermic blow off here from here. That's pretty good. Nope. Hypodermic. That's this guy. Okay. And if we trace the price action, it's very similar. So we see this little bear pennant here. We see a bear pennant here. We see a V bottom here. See a V bottom here. You see like a rally, a little pullback here, a little inverted head and shoulders kind of thing that fails to break out. So we see a little rally here. It makes an inverted head and shoulders here, fails to break out in the neckline and gets rejected. But something that's really interesting here is this bounce. So I think last week when we streamed, we were right here and I was talking about how I thought it was going to rally and then get stopped out of the supply line. So on this chart, the supply line is not actually drawn, so I'll draw it on here. Boom, boom. Can I make this smaller? Yeah. Jesus Christ. Okay, something like that, right? And if we go over here, we see a very similar thing. That was the pink line I told you guys to watch, right? Man, it's really hard to draw this diagonal. Okay, so we see a nice bounce here, a rejection here, a test of this low here, this V bottom low, and ultimately a very strong rejection. And I think that's what we're in for. I think we're going to reject this price level, come down, test this support down here, and then ultimately get shoved to lower lows, you know, somewhere down in the 4K area. You know, this, in our case, this would be the 4K area. We see a lot of similarities here with this price level, like right in here. We see this little low here. We see a little low here. So there are a lot of similarities between our current chart and this chart right here. So look this up on TradingView and you can see just how similar it is. And I think that's really what we're in store for, is this rejection of the supply line and a stiff fucking shove downward. You know, something similar to this, just down here. What do you think about Crypto Ed's tweet that there are buy orders on the OTC market for 500,000 Bitcoins, but no sellers for it? I don't give a shit about that, honestly. I really don't. Do you use log or linear? I literally just answered that. I don't ever use linear. I always use log. I mean, I look at linear to be like, oh, that's interesting that like it looks like this, but trading wise, I always look at log. Is the next phase the capitulation part? Yeah. So if we're looking at it like a classic bubble image, right? This would be capitulation right here. And if you're familiar with like the return to the mean, that would be this. You know, something like that, where like the curve is going up. But this right here would be capitulation, and I think that's what we're going to see before we bottom. Don't forget to add some likes, guys. Yeah, if you like what I'm doing, like the video. It helps with my YouTube metrics, so I get more eyes on the videos. So that's nice. Also, if you're really interested in this this type of analysis that I'm doing, and you like the way in which I'm looking at the market and want to learn how to do it, go to bitcoinschmitcoin.com and use coupon code BEARHUG. You see it moving around up here. It says coupon code BEARHUG, and you get $50 off your first month, and you can join the trading community there. We're growing. We got a lot of really good guys, a lot of different eyes in the market, and I think it's really an invaluable resource for the everyday trader and even the long-term investors. Like, so you can spot these market cycles like this. So you don't buy the 20K top, or sell the bottom. You don't want to be the guy that buys the top and sells the bottom. You don't want to be that guy. So if you want to stop being that guy and you're tired of buying the top and selling the bottom, like Tone Vase, then go to bitcoinschmitcoin.com and yeah, use coupon code BEARHUG. Why don't you give a shit about OTC markets? I don't care. I didn't say I didn't care about the OTC markets. I don't care what some random dude on Twitter told me about the OTC markets. I don't doubt that there are people buying it, but that doesn't affect my life. They buy it at a different price than market price. They don't, OTC markets are OTC because, you know, they're not at market price always. I basically assume that anyone that I'm reading on Twitter is lying to me and they're full of shit. So that's just my general assumption across the board. Do you guys have any questions about anything? Great analysis helps me cope with FOMO at the moment. Thanks a lot. Well, you're welcome, Jonas. But you're on Twitter. Why are you lying to us? I am lying to you. In your group, do you cover stocks as well? There are a few guys who trade stocks. I track the macro stock. You know, I track like the indexes. I don't really track like actual stocks. I track the stock indexes. You know, FANG, Dow Jones, stuff like that. What about the TR on the weekly that you posted on your Twitter? I don't think I've ever posted a trading range on the profession. I mean, I don't think I've ever posted a weekly trading range. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Where do you see Bitcoin at the end of the year? I have no idea. It depends on where this bear market bottoms, you know? The last bear market took a while to get out of, so I wouldn't be surprised if that happened again. You know, this took a long time to retrace back to where it was. It took years. I don't know that that's going to be the case again, but it remains to be seen, you know? It's too early to call. Your analysis is sharp. It puts another perspective on the table. I follow you, Pablo Picasso, and Donald. Cool. Yeah, both those guys are great. How you start when doing TA. Start from higher time frame and draw horizontals, then go lower. When you start to add indicators. I don't really, so if you've been following me for a while, I've been really changing around the way in which I trade to suit my personality better. I used to be really big on momentum indicators like RSI and MACD, and I've since moved away from them. And literally the only indicators, aside from Ichimoku on a macro perspective, literally the only indicators I use are volume and Bollinger Bands. That's it. I use volume and Bollinger Bands and Wyckoff theory in conjunction with those two things. Those are the only indicators I use. Wyckoff theory is heavily centered around horizontals. I think trading ranges are probably one of the most understudied things in the crypto Twitter space. There are a few guys who post about it, but I think trading ranges do not get enough attention, mostly because they're not intuitively obvious. They're not as easy to spot as like a giant fucking bull pennant or giant triangle. But it, it helps. It really helps to see what's going on. And once you understand from a Wyckoff perspective why the market's moving, how it's moving, all of this makes perfect sense. It really does. Because it's all game theory, and, it's like a giant puzzle. It's like, if I were, you got to think like in the shoes of like, if I had a fucking bajillion dollars, how would I get rid of it? And how would I How would I accumulate more Bitcoin? You know, things like that. It really helps to understand from that lens why the market moves the way it moves. But I don't use a lot of fancy indicators. I don't use Tom DeMark's system. I'll glance at MACD every now and then, but MACD has been utterly fucking worthless lately. Yeah, I just use volume and Bollinger Bands. That's literally it. Everyone is turning bullish, but you have no illusions and still see a bearish trend. That's why I like your analysis. Thanks, dude. There's a case we made for a reaccumulation TR on the weekly. Only the volume doesn't fit really well. Well, then that's not really a case to be made. Fibs, bro. Yeah, I don't really consider Fibonacci retracements to be an indicator. So that's why I didn't include that. Yeah, I use Fibonacci retracements, but I don't consider those to be an indicator. How do you use Bollinger Bands? Ooh, that's a really long discussion. But yeah, I use default settings. His group is no joke. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. I'm quite new to the game, and my question is, can you really compare Bitcoin/cryptos to traditional assets / market cycles? Yes. I don't know why this ever became a thing. Actually, I do know why. It's because of Reddit, but and it's the main reason why I'm not on Reddit anymore. If you've been following me for like any length of time, you know that I started out on Reddit and I would post my charts on Reddit. And then I got a following there and moved to Twitter, and then I created my own trading group to just filter out the sheer amount of people that were wanting to talk to me. But there's this like underbelly of the Twitter community, of the crypto community, that thinks that like crypto is unique. It's unique in a technological sense, but in terms of like the way it functions as a healthy market, there's nothing special about crypto. Okay. At the end of the day, human beings buy and sell assets, whether it's crypto, whether it's stocks, whether it's gold, whether it's anything, right? That is the common denominator here, is that it's human beings wanting to make money. End of story. Okay. Bitcoin doesn't rise because it's really fucking cool and people love it. That's a side effect. Bitcoin rises because there are people manipulating the market, and people like call composite operators that know how to make profit on other people's mistakes. This has never been more apparent to me than when I first started learning Wyckoff, the principles behind market cycles. That is when it really became apparent to me that crypto is not a unique asset. This whole nonsensical bullshit that Parabolic Trav posts and all these other like non-trader pseudo-technical analyst guys, I don't know why they keep peddling this nonsense, but you can trade crypto just like any other asset. I promise. I promise. If you understand market cycles, you can understand Bitcoin. That's why all this great news for Bitcoin keeps coming out, but the price keeps going down. Why is that? Why does the Bitcoin bubble look like every other bubble in history? Why is it that I can pull up this chart of something that happened in 2005 to 2009 and it looks identical to the Bitcoin chart? Well, it's because there's a standard process to make profit on large shares of assets, and there's a way to sell it to make profit, right? And that is through the market cycle. So that is the most efficient engine to generate profit on a macro scale, is the Wyckoff market cycles. Do you use Ichimoku clouds? Yeah, I do, but only on a macro perspective. I don't use them on anything lower than like 6 hour, and 6 hours like really pushing it. I look at Ichimoku on stuff like the daily, and the 3 day is really useful. I almost always actually start out the videos with Ichimoku stuff. What the fuck? So here's the current daily cloud here, right? Still looks bearish. Big fat red Kumo. The Chiku span is trending below the price action, which is bearish. You know, we see the fast moving average is below the slow moving average, and it didn't even get a retest of the cloud, so it doesn't look good on the daily. The 3-day, 3-day looks horrible. This gigantic red Kumo looks like shit. We had a strong bearish cross here going into this, so this looks like a sustained move from an Ichimoku perspective. When the Chiku span actually gets through the cloud, that's going to be fucking horrible. And yeah, on the weekly there was a strong bearish cross here. We don't have a Kumo twist yet, but we're about to ram straight into this fucking cloud, so it doesn't look good. I would consider the end of the bear market to be this is like my general rule of thumb for when I'm going to go long on a macro asset. Like if I'm going to start buying alts, I want to see something that looks like, I'll show you an example of something that I want to see. So I want to see the Chiku span not below the cloud. I want to see the price trending above the cloud. I want to see the price above the cloud. Boom. I want to see a cross of some sort between the slow and the fast moving average. And one coin that's really embodying that to me is EOS. EOS on the daily looks really good. Looks really healthy. So we see here, we see the Chiku span through the cloud. We see the price trending above the cloud. We're finding support on the Kijun and the Tenkan. We see a green cloud, and we saw a cross. We saw, this is a weak bullish cross. Weak bullish. But it looks really good. And this is EOS BTC. It looks really good here. The only reason why I'm not buying it is because what I explained earlier, that if Bitcoin's going down in USD value, then it doesn't make any sense to me to be buying alts at the moment. So that's just my opinion. Where would you set stop losses on the short that you're building? And if you're against stop losses, I'm not against stop losses. If you're against stop losses, I think you're a fool. You would set a stop loss. So my take on stop losses are a little bit different than some. I set stop losses according to how much I stand to lose on a position. So I set a thesis on like where I want to enter a position, and I calculate how much I'm willing to lose if I'm wrong. And then I set my stop loss there. So that depends on your bankroll and your position size. There's no, the way that I sort out stop losses, it's not like a one size fit all for stop losses. I feel like you get mad triggered when Trav posts something. No, I mean, I guess I kind of do. I just get triggered that so many people are like buying into his bullshit, but you know, it is what it is, I guess. It is what it is. Livermore's reminiscence of a stock operator is excellent for understanding stock price manipulation. Yeah, I've only read pieces of it, but yeah, it's great. The pieces that I have read are really good. Do you use doubled settings on Itchy or just default? Yeah, I use default. I don't use the doubled settings. I know Carpe Noctem, Josh Olszewicz, he uses the double settings, but I don't. I feel like the reaction, the signals that it gives are too slow, and it doesn't pick up on a reversal very well. It's very delayed on the reversal signals, and I just don't think that's very wise for a highly volatile asset. That just doesn't make sense to me. Are you still looking at the same 400 or 4,500 accumulation range? Yeah, so I've had this on my chart for weeks now. This is my evaluate to buy long-term zone. You know, somewhere in here. This is like this 127, this 4,500 area. This is where I start to look for long-term hold territories right in here. Hey Schmidt, what is the best way to start scaling in for a macro trade? Well, that is a very broad and general question that probably isn't suited for a stream. That'd be more of a question for the trading community. You know, if you want to join that, that would be one of the better ways to learn how to do that. Can you take a look at ICX BTC chart? No, I'm sorry. I'm not going to look at any of these like random altcoin charts right now. When I think Bitcoin's starting to bottom, then I'll start to look at them. But I'm keeping an eye on some of these BTC pairs because these, like, when Bitcoin bottoms, I'm going to buy the shit out of EOS. But until then, I'm not buying it because as soon as Bitcoin starts pushing back down, this is going to retrace heavily, and I don't want to hold that asset. I do have a few coins that I've been watching. Well, I guess we can talk about we could talk about some altcoins. Might as well. We haven't done it in a while, have we? I'm watching XRP because it looks like it's coming close to a bottom here. It doesn't have the hallmarks of a reversal yet, but it's something that I'm keeping a close eye on. Ether is one of them. So here's Ether Bitcoin. We're starting to see some of the hallmarks of a reversal. So we see a weak bullish cross here. Still a thick cloud on the daily. But if we're looking at the 12-hour, it's starting to look more bullish, right? So we see the Kumo is flipped to green. The slow moving average crossed, I'm sorry, the fast moving average crossed the slow moving average, and the price is in the cloud right now. So once I see a breakout of the cloud, that's when I'm going to start to look at a buy signal. But until we break through the cloud, I'm not touching it. And Litecoin. Oh wow, Litecoin. Whoa, Litecoin really took off today. Wow, I haven't even looked at this chart yet. Yeah, so it found a local bottom right around here. Yeah, Litecoin BTC looks like it's going to be an okay buy. It's really choppy though. It's like really hard to get a good signal on, but from a Wyckoff perspective, it looks decent. But again, something I'm just keeping an eye on. Yeah, there are a lot of coins like this, but is it possible that alts outperform heavily and eventually pull Bitcoin? Not anytime soon. I don't think that's something that's going to happen anytime soon. Bitcoin has the first mover advantage. It has a foothold in all the institutional investors. It has the liquidity. It has the public eye. It has all these things going for it. I don't see even Ether. Like, I don't see Ether taking a foothold and really pulling the reins on Bitcoin anytime soon. Not within the next couple years. Anyway, I've rambled on for long enough. I've been talking for about an hour. If you like these kind of thoughts and you like this kind of analysis and you want to have access to it 24/7, where I hang out and where I'm always, I'm not very active on Twitter, but I'm always in my trading community, discussing the markets with everyone and analyzing all the different coins that everyone's looking at. So if you're interested in joining in on that discussion, go to bitcoinschmitcoin.com and you can use it for 13 more days until the end of April. You can use the coupon code BEARHUG and get $50 off your first month. But for right now, that's that's all I got for you guys. Again, watch out for this macro supply line here. I would be careful going long, but it's your money. Feel free to do whatever you want. I just know that I'm going to be looking to short right on this little bro right here. So that's all I got for you guys. Maybe I'll do a stream at the end of the week. Oh shit. Oops, knocked over some pens. But and until then, you guys have a great rest of your week. Be careful about getting too greedy on the altcoins, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.